These are the 5 areas that retirees spend almost 80% of their expenditures on. You're going to enjoy this video and see how you compare. So let's go for a walk and talk about these numbers. So the first number is not going to surprise anybody, the first category, and that is housing. Retirees, people 65 and over, spend 1/3 of their retirement income on housing. And I should say that retirement income for people 65 and over in aggregate is $54,000 a year before taxes, and $28,000 of that comes from Social Security, so just over half comes from Social Security. The other half comes from their investments in other places where people have saved up their money. So $54,000 is the pre-tax income. We're fortunate where retirees tend to be in a fairly low tax bracket. After tax, it's $51,700. And housing, again, is $18,000 of that. So right at 1/3 of retiree income goes to spend for housing. Next up on the list, and frankly, this was a surprise for me, was healthcare. Healthcare comes in at just under $7,000, $6,900. And that amounts to 13% of the retiree income. And I should share that these are household numbers both for expenses and that $54,000 that I shared earlier, the $54,000 for retiree income. You can see I'm at a baseball game here. Leave in the comments if you can guess what stadium, and extra points if you can guess the game that I'm at. Okay, it's a little noisy back there, so let's come back over here. So we talked about housing, we talked about healthcare, just under $7,000. And the way that breaks out is insurance is just under $5,000 a year. And then medical services, so that's going to the doctor visits, things like that. That's at about $1,000. And then drugs and supply, prescription drugs and supply. I'm assuming it's prescription drugs. I should mention too where this data comes from. This data comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They do a study every year. This is the most recent study that came out in September of 2022, so pretty recent data. Okay, we talked about housing, we talked about healthcare and the breakout of healthcare, the insurance, drugs and supplies, things like that. Number 3 on the list is transportation. Transportation comes in above food, which is kind of surprising. Transportation's at $6,700, which is 12%. Again, I've shared in the past, I think people can cut that number down, but the number that I've shared in the past is, could you get that down to $500 a month? And frankly, $6,700 is right around there, right? So I think people in retirement are driving older cars and they're keeping them longer. So I don't think there's a whole lot of room to improve on this. Let's see if the noise is a little bit lower here and you can see some of the game behind me. Okay, next up is food. The food cost is $6,000 a year for the average retired family. And that's 11% of that $54,000. So the way that breaks out is 3/4 of this, $4,500, $4,500 is food that people are eating at home. So they're not eating out that much, and they're spending $1,500 a year eating out. So, just a little over $1,200 a month. Just over $120 a month, I'm sorry, is what people are spending for eating out. So that's not a lot of money. And so I think retirees are doing what they can to keep their expenses. I like a good early bird special, and I suspect a lot of retirees are taking advantage of that as well. So there we have food. Next up is entertainment. Entertainment is clocking in at about 5%, $2,600, $2,600. And in entertainment are things like going on vacation, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually includes our pets as entertainment. So if you have a pet, this would include the dog food for your puppy, cat food, etc., probably vet visits. But I think, you know, the entertainment area is something that I think you could have something pretty interesting come out of that, and that is on the vacation side of things. In previous videos, I've suggested maybe, you know, thinking outside of the box, and what would happen if you rented your house out for a year, right? Or try it for 3 months. Rent your house out for the summer and see how maybe your life is different because you rented your house out for the summer. You're going to go somewhere else, travel in the United States, although, you know, many of us have done a lot of traveling in the United States, so it might make sense to actually travel internationally. And yes, traveling to Europe is expensive, but if you look at Southeast Asia, countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, now these are places that might make you nervous when I mention these, but I can tell you I've been to all of these countries that I've mentioned, including 7 countries in South America, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and you know, if as long as you're not heading out at midnight and staying out late and looking for trouble, you know, I can tell you I felt very, very safe in all these locations. And I was traveling alone, so one thing to think about there, that would drop down your housing costs, not permanently, but just for, you know, a summer. I think it would really be interesting, actually, if you're feeling adventurous, what would happen if you rented out your house for a year? You just said, you know what, we're going to rent it out, see what happens. We're going to travel around the U.S. Maybe we're going to see our adult children a little more than we normally would. We're going to go internationally, maybe at least 2 what I call slow travel trips. So you go to an international country, and instead of just being there a couple weeks, you stay there a couple months, right? And again, if you're in Southeast Asia, if you're in South America, if you're in India, I don't know about Africa, it's on my list. I have not been to India either, I should tell you, but I think it could be interesting. Okay, so let's go to the last category here. And the last category we talked about entertainment, which is what really got me going on the rent out your house for a year. One of the spouses is really happy that I'm saying this, and the other spouse is saying, let's not watch Azul anymore. So before I get to the last one, do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, do me a favor, leave me a thumbs up, leave me a like. As the kids say, thumbs for likes and subs for love. And do leave me a comment. I love reading the comments. I'd love to see which stadium people think I'm in, and like I said, extra points if anybody can figure out what game I'm at today. And so the final category, and the reason I left this for last is it doesn't apply to everybody, and that's paying into your pension and your Social Security. And that clocks in at $2,300, $2,300 a year, a little over $200 a month. Now, you know, if you're retired, you're probably not paying into that anymore, but that's another 4%. So if you add all this up, it comes to 78%. So you can accuse me of clickbait for saying retirees spend 80% of their money on this category. It's partially true. You could say it was clickbait, but I hope you found the video helpful. Again, if you did, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Leave me a comment. I do read all the comments. And until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Let's see the ball game one last time, and let's use our time wisely. And I'm super curious what stadium and what game people think I'm at. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.